And good morning. Happy June 5th, 2021. It is now 8 a.m. on the dot. I hope you're all doing well this morning. I see a couple folks in the chat already. Good morning, Unky Joe. Good morning, Sean Woods. Both people that I consider to be friends are here. If you're out there and you can hear me, make sure that you're giving us a thumbs up. Make sure that you're letting me know in the comments if everything sounds decent. And hey, there's Tony with Quick Tech. And I think at some point we're planning another tech quartet. Morning, Zach. Morning, David. Everybody is circling in. I got a ton of stuff to show you here this morning. 14 of you, only 4 thumbs up. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Let's tell the algorithm that you do enjoy this content. Morning, Ressie and Gibby. T.N. Bighorn from Nashville. Ryan Sharp is in the house. Ryan Sharp, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods later. Staying away from the Chillicothe pool because there's a huge baseball tournament. My wife was just telling me in the Chillicothe area, 350 ball teams. And we plan on hitting the water, but not with 350 baseball teams in the area. And there's a big concert in the area. It's called Tailgate and Tall Boys. So traffic's all screwed up from that. And so we're going to go around. We're going to try some of the other local pools. Morning, Cody with Mac Telecom. Noodles is in the house. Ron from the Netherlands. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Everybody is piling in. So much stuff to talk about. So, Ubiquiti sent me some gear. Morning, Dave Robertson. So, I will tell you that for the right situation, Unify Protect with all the updates that they've done, it's growing on me. And so I did ask for the only G4 camera that I have is the doorbell, but I want to get into some of the advanced analytics and things like that. And morning, Alonzo. And so I did ask for a couple cameras. And so they did send me. I got the G4 Dome, so you're going to see my video on this, and then I got the G4 Bullet, so that'll do that. It'll do those advanced kind of analytics things. I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see. All right, if you've got any questions, make sure that you put them in the chat. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. Good morning, Joe with Cajoling Tech. Joe's been kind of quiet this week. So it's funny. So I also have a TP-Link 2.5 gig switch they sent me here. I'm waiting on APs to show up, some of the new APs. They're supposed to send me a bunch of stuff. Just the switch showed up. But Cody, if you look at his pictures, he got some socks and shirts. And so I was giving my rep kind of a hard time. And I'm like, look, I heard that, these come with awesome socks and awesome shirts because I love the swag and they haven't delivered yet. So Cody, you should know that maybe only in Canada are they giving out socks. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, Tony is going to go ahead and post links to everybody else's channel. That'd be fantastic. All right, so the last couple of videos that we did were about the Ubiquiti building bridge. And so I'm going to follow up on that. And I actually have a set of the Gigabeams, which is the Air Max alternative to that. And I'm going to do a full setup video on this. I'm also getting into solar. So, but if you look at the Gigabeam is almost 100% identical. Obviously, except it doesn't run the Unify software and there's no LED. There's no LED ring on it, but everything else. And the fact that Ubiquiti is going to give us a chance to screw the link up because they're going to give us a lot more choices in the software. Now, I said that tongue in cheek, right? I don't think we're really going to screw up the link, but there's a lot of people deploying wireless networks that don't understand the basics. A lot of them are even on YouTube, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong. I get a lot of requests saying, "Hey, I watched this video. I did it exactly like this person did it," or "Hey, I had this person set it up and it doesn't work. Can you fix it?" And then we start digging in on some of the basic stuff. Some of the basics aren't even done. Sometimes, you know, I'm guilty where I've posted videos. So, Ubiquiti at one point asked me to not post some of my challenging link videos because occasionally we will do things um, that unless you have worked with RF, you probably shouldn't do. We bend the rules a little bit to make things work, but we understand the consequences of doing that. And so the normal user will go out and they will do that. They'll have poor performance, and then it becomes a great big huge support nightmare. And so it's interesting. And so I don't post a lot of those videos. I do have a video from way back in the day where we've got a 900 megahertz link that's legit shooting through a half a mile of trees, and we get 10 megabits on the other side. Most users are not going to experience that. So it's you know, while I say it tongue in cheek, you know, if you've ever got questions, if you've ever got issues about with wireless or whatever, let me know. So one of the most common things I see is that there's a couple of Cambium um, uh, professionals out there that don't work for Cambium, but they sell Cambium, and I get probably a half a dozen a year where competitor has deployed Cambium, whether it's in an RV park or in a camp, you know, camping area, and it doesn't work right. And so they reach out to me, and then they're upset when I'm like, whoop, whoop. Because here's the thing about Cambium, right? If you're having problems with Cambium, Cambium will actually get engineers on the phone and they'll fix your problem. So a lot of times I get cut out of the Cambium deals, which I don't mind because then the customer actually gets what they need. So I'm going to do a video on some wireless topics that you should be paying attention to if you're deploying point to point to multi-point and things like that. And just to kind of put that out there, I'm going to try to do like starting a small WISP. I talked about this years ago, but I think I'm getting to a point where I can actually do that. So that's going to be uh, I think it's going to be good, right? You all will let me know in the comments and everything. Comments have been picking up like on the cert video, so I appreciate that. I appreciate all the interaction. Let's go over to the comments real quick. Unky Joe says playing around with the Eero system for a client's home setup is working great, covers my entire home. Yeah, so I work with a guy who used to travel the country. He's an engineer, and he did pyro shows and light shows for concerts, big concerts, like name like an 80s, 90s huge rock band. This dude probably worked on it. And so now he's kind of retired. He's getting into, you know, being a network professional. So I trained him on edge routers. You know, we did, I don't know, like 6 or 8 hours of training on specific things for edge routers. But then he wanted to use Eeros, and we had a lot of unknowns with the Eero, like, will it pass all VLANs? Will it do this? Will it do that? And it turns out that the Eero, you can make it pass all VLANs, so we can put a switch on the other side. We can do all kinds of cool things. So yeah, the Eero worked out pretty well. Good morning, Prentice. How you doing this morning? Ressi says, speaking of Wi-Fi, Grandstream put out a new firmware for the WAPs last night. Really? Let me take a look at this. Supposed to have that Wi-Fi 6 AP. Let's see. So I see a beta for the 6300 series of UCMs. Let's see. I'm not seeing the firmware. Maybe I went past it. 1.19.25. I think that's what I'm already running. You have any more details about that? So, Sean, the chip shortage has hurt Grandstream like it's hurt every other customer. So the switches are pushed out to the probably end of the third quarter, fourth quarter, but the new Wi-Fi 6 AP should be hitting anytime. Ressi, which firmware are you talking about on that? Morning, Marcel. Unified 24 PoE asking for a downgrade from 5.6 to 5.43. Should I do that? Well, that's a good question. Did Ubiquiti have you upgrade that to that 5.6? Is that an early release, a beta release, something like that? It's going to depend on what Ubiquiti told you. So yeah, so I can't wait to get my hands on one of those Wi-Fi 6 APs from Grandstream. When we are deploying these things, like they're going out of style. Noodles. So here's the thing, and you can ask anybody who's ever deployed a Grandstream access point. We don't have the firmware problems. We don't have the connectivity issues. They just run. They just work. You're not tied to a cloud controller, so you've got so many different options. Go back, Noodles, and check out. I did a video on it. Why there are our favorite APs. Go check it out. All right, Prentice bought the DS920 and waiting on hard drives. Perfect. So if you're going to need some follow up consulting on that, just let me know. And we've been talking through that just a little bit. Yeah, and Tony with Quick Text says they just perform better overall. Yeah, I've got a video coming on that. I know I got a lot of videos coming, but it's all about time and priorities and things like that. And my family has kind of taken priority lately. I've shifted a lot of work over to the subcontractors. Um, do have some phones. I've got a provision after this live stream, 20 of them, so we can get things boxed up and sent to a customer down in Georgia. So, hey, Netherlands are in the house. Okay, so what else? I got some stuff here. We talked about solar. So I went to Harbor Freight and I paid $100 for a 100-watt solar panel. And now that it's going to be nice and sunny, I'm going to get a chance to play with this. I'm going to be using, you've seen this camera, but we're going to be there's going to be some videos dumped on the channel that are just me like looking at this stuff, like trying to figure it out. So it's going to be like raw, unedited, all that good stuff. So, however, I have the solar switch from Ubiquiti. And what this does is this hooks into your batteries and it hooks into your panel. And when I got this, they didn't have, I don't think the solar point was out. So the solar point is kind of, it's an all-in-one unit. Looks like an Edge Point 6 router, which is a great router, but you can just hang it on a pole. But I'm gonna have to get a NEMA enclosure for this. So you're gonna see this. But yeah, so it's got four PoEs at four PoE out ports. This does have Wi-Fi built into it. It's got some mounting gear, so your panel plugs in here, and then you've got let's see, this connector here goes to the battery. This goes to this is DC out. Sounds like there's something loose in there. That's not good. This has never been mounted. I hope this thing works. I'll have to do an RMA if it doesn't. On the bottom, you can see the MAC address, and then it's got password, username, all that good stuff for the Wi-Fi that's built into it. So I am pretty stinking excited about getting some solar up and going, and that's why I'm going to dump this from scratch. I'm gonna do this from scratch, so there's not gonna be like any like, well, how do we do this? How do we do that? Like, you're literally gonna see there's just gonna be videos, and I'm sure they're gonna get a ton of thumbs down, a ton of hate, because it's not gonna be like, but it's gonna be my thoughts from like beginning to end. I should have filmed me going into Harbor Freight and buying the solar panel and all that, but we'll see what happens. So this is not gonna be a huge installation, but it is going to be on a pole out in my yard. And then I'm going to have, turns out that I don't think I'm going to be able to use, at least with the gear I've got. I think this only does, yeah, these only do 24 volt passive out. So they don't do 48 volts. So I don't think I can use the Gigabeam or the building bridges for this. I think I'm going to have to use my Nano Locos, which is fine because there's only going to be an access point. There's going to be an access point, the Nano Loco, and a camera, because this is where I'm going to start studying how fast people are traveling down my road. Because despite popular belief, it is not the Indy 500 out there. But with the way semis drive by, Ryan Sharp can attest to how fast people drive on this road. And let's see. So the PoE adapter that came with the let's see. Wait a second. Wait a second. I was wrong. I'm going to be able to use the gigabeams. This is a 24 volt adapter that came with the gigabeam. So I will be able to use the gigabeams. I don't know that I'm going to be able to use the building bridge though. So that's exciting. It's not going to be anything too crazy, but I figure people will would like to see like actually from scratch. Like, hey, how do you get going with this? How, what's all the testing look like? So, all right, over to the comments real quick. Noodle says he's moving away from Ubiquiti due to their shenanigans. Yeah, there's a lot of people, and you should never put all your eggs in one basket. I often see this with Cisco. So Cisco is famous for this, right? So you've got a bunch of resellers, and then what happens is somebody will go out and they'll start talking to resellers, and a reseller will lock the deal in, and then it screws all the other Cisco partners. And oftentimes, like in Peoria, there's like a half a dozen Cisco partners, right? And so it's not a good situation. So yeah, you should have multiple issues or multiple vendors that you can pull from. We do. Let's see here. Gibby says we are using Cambium for business and Grandstream for residential. Yeah, we also use those. We also use those vendors. Noodle says my business clients are small biz, so they cringe at everything that costs more than some of the off clearance. Yeah, and you got to figure out, Noodles, how to have those conversations. So Grant says, what router would you recommend if you want all traffic on the network to go through a VPN? I would probably use Protectly, and I would install OpenSense or PFSense. Let's see. Admin engineer says, I've never used Grandstream. How do they compare to the Unify ecosystem and configuration for business and Wi-Fi solutions? So you go back and check out my Grandstream access point video that I did a few weeks ago. It'll talk about why we love the Grandstream APs. I'm going to do a video on the Cambium stuff as well. I've got 2 Cambium switches and some all kinds of Cambium gear. But here's the thing with Grandstream is they've got switches coming. So they've got the router, they've got access points. They're going to have the switches. It's all going to be integrated. But then they also have cameras, building access control, and they're doing it. They're not locking you into an ecosystem. It's all based on open standards. And so I'm going to be able to quote networks from tip to stern and deliver a pallet of Grandstream gear besides storage. And it's going to work. So I'm going to do some videos too on the GSC 3710, which is the building access control, which is why I have this, which is a mini electric door strike. These are like $70 delivered, but you don't have to cut the door. These will fit in a regular door. And so you're going to see me use these with the Grandstream door station. And our house will actually be wired with these, which is going to be fantastic. Yeah. So Joe says that my beard's looking clean. So I wanted to trim it in half. So it turns out I have to get a different beard trimmer because even this is the longest guard that I have, and it's too short. So all right, over to the comments. How many amp hours are you going to have for backup for the solar panel when cloud? I'm going to have 2 deep cell batteries, and I think, and once again, I'm going to like do some calculations on paper. That's what I was thinking off the top of my head. So does Grandstream allow for cloud administration? Yes, they do. Absolutely do. Morning from Ireland, R. Andrews. Good morning. Good morning. And Sean Woods is 100% correct. Wi-Fi 5 is not going anywhere for years. So don't stop buying. There's so many factors into building out a network with Wi-Fi 6 that, yeah, businesses are not just going to churn this stuff overnight or even in the next year. My shirt is actually from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a huge fan of Tennessee, and this is a Nashville, Tennessee shirt. No, 802.11 AC is not dead. So It's definitely not dead. There are way more AC clients still available. If you think that AC is dead, you need to rethink your position in IT, because you still buy low-end IoT devices that are still just 802.11g on 2.4 gigahertz. So for you to make the statement that 802.11 AC is dead is asinine and absurd. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are still some 802.11b clients out there because the radios are so cheap. And I'll take you to the mat on this one, because you're absolutely wrong that Wi-Fi 5 is dead and all this other stuff. Somebody says, "Hi, Willie. I see Grandstream is owned by the Chinese." Um, I don't even know how to respond to this rationally. So I have a picture of me with the Grandstream CEO. He happens to be Asian. I don't know if he's Chinese. Maybe he's Chinese. So they're headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. He's an American citizen. So because of his nationality or whatever is that why you're making this statement? I don't understand. So it's misinformation and statements like that causes problems. Um, I don't know what you're digging for. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know where you see that Grandstream is owned by the Chinese, or if you're saying that the president is Chinese, or what you're trying to get at with that statement. But you're teetering on not being welcome here with I don't know what you're digging at, but I think I might see where you're going. So you need to be walking a line on that. You're throwing around, looks like you're trying to throw around something, and I don't know what it is. Sean says, funny enough, for my personal home, I am having the same debate, Nanos or U6. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So I'm pulling some of my stuff out because I'm having issues with it. And, Grandstream is, I've got the Grandstream APs in there. I'm going to do a video on that when we install them. So anything that is in beta, we cannot talk about it. So, which is funny because I see a lot of YouTube videos. There's, some people have asked me to do videos on Unify Talk, and we don't use Unify Talk. But once it comes out, I may poke around. I may do some videos on it. However, I see a lot of videos on YouTube where people are doing videos of beta stuff. And if Ubiquiti wanted to, you agree when you buy from the early access store that you will not do that. And we've been asked in writing to not do videos or media presentations on things that are in early access or beta. And so if Ubiquiti wanted to, they could invoke the legalese that is in that agreement, and those creators could be in trouble. So anything that is still beta, you won't see me talking about. How does Grandstream price compare to similar Unify products? So the GWN 7630, which is my favorite Grandstream AP right now, you can get it for less than $100, and that's a 4x4 access point. Does anybody really use Unify Talk? I mean, I get emails about it. People who are, I mean, it's a beta product and it's expensive. I mean, who pays $10 per handset? Who pays $10 per handset right now for phones? It's absolutely ridiculous for you to get locked into a per phone contract. You should be paying per minute. So we are working on a new calculator that I'll do a video on when we release it. But what this calculator is going to do is it's going to take the Grandstream on-prem system, you're going to build it out, and then it's going to take it and it's going to show you how much money you can save even after our installation fees versus going with any of the cloud providers that are out there. So let's see. TN Bighorn says, lately I'm having a lot of issues with Unify at my house, really thinking about deploying some TP-Link. So I've got customers who are MSPs who are deploying the TP-Link, and it works just fine for them. It works out really well. Yeah, and when people contact us and they're like, hey, will you work on our Unify Talk? We politely decline. It was funny. Tom Lawrence and I had a customer who's bouncing back and forth between us, and this customer wants to use edge routers and wants to do all kinds of policy-based routing and has 2 WAN connections and some pretty complex routings for an edge router. And so I quoted them and they immediately went over to Tom, and Tom pinged me. He's like, "Hey, what do you charge for this?" And I said, "Well, minimum of this price." And neither one of us have heard back. So, Cody or somebody else out there, you will probably hear from this customer. They've got 3 edge routers and they're trying to get it done as cheap as possible, but for what they want, it's going to be a headache. And so if it comes to you and you're going to do it, make sure you are charging appropriately. All right, back to the comments. Yeah, make sure you're hitting that like button. On that solar panel, what is the efficiency? 50 to 60? I don't know yet, Gibby. This is all things that we're going to learn together. Yes. If anyone, so one of the comments says, and I think is it Zephael says, if anyone says PBR to me, not Pabst Blue Ribbon, but policy-based routing, I raise my rate 2000% minimum. Yeah. A lot of times too, when people say they want policy-based routing, they can't explain to you what it is, why it is. All they know is they saw some flashy videos or something online, and they want to recreate that. So we try to talk to them about what policy-based routing is, what it does. The other thing that is very difficult to talk to people about is when they tell me that they've got an edge router, the conversation is even more difficult with the USG, but when they have an edge router and they're like, I need to bond my WAN connections, and then trying to explain to them that you cannot bond WAN connections with an edge router, it becomes a very difficult conversation because somewhere somebody has told them that you can bond WAN connections with an edge router when in fact you cannot. All right, back over to the comments. Ryan Sharp says, so many people have a problem with China in the electronics industry, and I don't know why those haters. Yeah, they do need a reality check, because if you think that 90% of all of your electronics aren't coming out of Asia, you need to start looking at the manufacturing labels. Dave Robertson says, I can personally confirm the Grandstream APs go with the GWN 7630s and you will not be disappointed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cody with Mac Telecom says, I think that person may have emailed me, but I haven't responded. Yeah, so I can tell you what I quoted for 3, and I know Tom's quote was probably higher than mine because we talked about it. And Cody, don't do that one cheap, because this is the kind of customer likely where you're going to do this and then their microwave stops popping popcorn correctly, and now it's your fault because you did this policy-based routing on their edge routers. So Ryan Sharp says, what is policy-based routing? So policy-based routing is exactly what it sounds like. It's, I have a set of rules for where I need information to go, right? So I have 2 WAN connections, 3 WAN connections, 5, however many different WAN connections. It's almost like software-defined WAN, right? They're pretty much can be, you can use them interchangeably, right? But what policy-based routing does, let's say I've got a really fast internet connection, but it's flaky, and I've got a really slow one, and slow is relative, right? Let's just say I've got a 10 by 10, but it never goes down, right? So I want to force all voice traffic to go out of my 10 by 10, but all web surfing to go out of my gigabit down, 50 meg up, but it's flaky, right? So in the router, I create policies or rules that say this type of traffic always goes out of this connection, and this type of traffic always goes out of this connection. However, if one of these connections fails, fail over to the other one. So it gets kind of convoluted, and working with the customers, you know, and here's the other thing too, right? Unless you're using something like a Peplink or a Mushroom Networks to actually aggregate bandwidth and do these things, also having the conversation with people about how long it takes for failover to happen becomes a difficult conversation, right? In an ideal scenario, if I've got dual WAN, I can get the switchover probably 1 to 3 seconds, 1 to 5 seconds. Let's just use that conservatively, right? So 1 to 5 seconds, which is 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. Now, if that was silence or the stream had frozen, that would seem like an eternity, right? Well, what else happens when that first connection goes down? If I'm doing a YouTube stream, or if I'm streaming audio, or I'm streaming something like that, You know, I'm sending out of my primary WAN. The source is that WAN connection. When that connection fails, even though it only takes, let's just say 3 seconds to fail over, now that connection has to reestablish. How long that takes is up to all of the ISPs, all of the service providers that are in line on that WAN connection. So what is supposed to be like a 3 to 5 second failover now can become 10, 15 seconds. And trying to get people to understand that it's not instant, right? Because everything's based on connection states, and there's a lot to it besides just telling my internet connection to fail over. That is also a very difficult conversation. Cody says, just on how the email was written, I don't think this customer is for me. Yeah, you can send them back. Let's see here. How does bonding work? So it depends. Like if you're looking at like Ethernet bonding, then you're creating a lag in LACP or an Ether channel, something like that. But if you're doing bonding, it's my understanding that the way that Peplink does it, and I haven't, it's been a while since I dealt with Mushroom Networks. There's also X-Roads is an appliance vendor that does that. But like what Peplink does is they have like servers, like I think out at AWS, and they basically create a VPN with all of your connections under that VPN, then it all goes out through AWS. So it's like bonded, and it's supposed to work. And I have a couple of customers who have it, and it appears to work as advertised. Jay House says Microsoft updates come off our Comcast link, business links cooler off our AT&T fiber, PBR through a PAN firewall. Yeah. Palo Alto Networks in the house represent. There's our Palo Alto makes the world's best firewall. Change my mind. That was for Joe over there at Cajoling. Yeah, so bonding is different in the carrier world versus in the in-house in your switches. All right, so what else do we got to talk about? So I showed you the GigaBeam. I showed you the camera. I'm super excited about this. You should see how small this door lock is, right? So if you do any of this kind of work, you'll have to check this thing out on Amazon. But literally, this electronic strike, this is all the bigger it is. And so I'm going to get this hooked up. It literally, look how small that electronic strike is. Holy cow. It's got 1,000 pounds. It's 1,000 pounds. See you, Ryan. Thanks for being here. So this is going to get dropped in. You're going to see some videos of this hooked to the Grand Stream. I may take the Unify Access out of the box and hook it up to that just to do like a tabletop video on that, since I have it. And then we'll see how that goes. The Unify Access, they sent it to me. It hasn't been out of the box. But I think it's time to at least take it out of the box and look at it. All right. When are you weighing into our competition? Joe, when I lose the 20 pounds that I gained over the last few months, I'll weigh back into the competition. It's coming up. Let's see. I'm not sure what Silas is talking about with the AP. Draws my attention. It looks like it has some flooding going on. Not sure what that is. This door lock, you can find it on Amazon. It is the Seco Larm Mini door strike. It is SD-991A-D1Q. Do not buy them all because I need more. Don't buy them. Don't buy them more. Let's see. Dave says, Willie, how are you going to install the wiring for that door latch? Well, that's a good question. So if it's wood, I'll probably have to pull a panel off, create a channel. If it's metal, it'll be hollow. I can pop some holes. So that'll be in the video as well. Yeah, and the Grand Stream stuff works fantastic. However, I think the Grand Stream stuff can power, if you provide it with power, it can power like a 12 volt. But most of the time, and I'll have to put a model number up, most of the time you're using this, you're going to want to have a third party power supply for this. And you can pick a power supply up for like $40. It'll do like 3 doors, 2 or 3 doors, something like that. Instead of trying to draw power off of the Grand Stream unit itself. You could, we typically don't install it like that. Hey, Jacob Johnson in the house. Have fun roofing, dude. It's going to be 100 degrees outside. And you're going to be roofing? Man, I hope you drink a cold one after that. All right. So what else do we have? Oh, that's right. So you saw the picture from the beginning of the live stream, right? And so I'm getting ready to do a video on this. I bought this myself. This is a Grandstream HT801. It's a single port ATA. You're going to hear all this in the video. I've been shooting, like I've been so unhappy with the footage. But I've been shooting and I shot multiple times with this. But it's the HT801 and the Grandstream series 800 series of ATAs actually allows pulse dialing. So I'm going to show you how to set all that up. Well, my aunt and uncle, I had put out on Facebook, hey, does anybody have a rotary phone? I'm super interested in a rotary phone. I want to use it as my office phone. My aunt and uncle, who live a couple hours from me, they answered the call and they actually had this in their basement, and they brought it down last weekend. And I don't know if I've got the wiring screwed up, but I had this working and now it's not working. I don't know if my wires, I bet my wires are screwed up. And all I'm getting is dead air. Maybe I'll reboot the ATA. But if you look at some of the social videos that I posted, let's see, I think my wiring got screwed up. No, wiring still looks good from this side. I'm going to reboot the ATA then. But it works and it rings, and I had to adjust. In these old phones, there's what's called a bias spring. Why don't I just have dead air on this thing? Test. You know what, though? Because I called it earlier. Let's see here. Now it's not working. What did I do to it? All right, troubleshooting old electronics 101. But I'm going to reboot the ATA and we'll see if we get dial tone. But this phone is like, it's pretty old. I mean, it would be considered an antique. But it does work. Once I hang it up, it'll be all. If you want to see the phone ring, you can go to my my socials, and I posted a video on it. We'll let this ATA reboot and we'll try it again. So there's a lot of stuff coming. I did ask Ubiquiti. Oh yeah, if you're in the States and you're consulting, don't forget we've got quarter two estimated taxes due June 15th. Don't forget about that. All right, back over to the comments real quick. Yes, the Bat phone. That's exactly what it's called. And yes, Grandstream does have a self-hosted controller. Dave Robertson says, I just learned this week that the HT800s can be managed via GDMS. You bet. They've also got GDMS on-prem coming out, which is exciting. So this ATA doesn't seem to be wanting to boot. Maybe I blew it up. That's no good. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we're back online. Let's see if I got dial tone. Can you hear that? Let me know in the comments. Can you hear this? All right. So now let me just grab my cell phone because then you won't be able to hear it ring. So I use the Grandstream Wave app on my phone. Let's see. Here we go. Right? So if you can't hear that, I can't help you. You need to seek help other than me. So it does work. I can call out. So if I pick it up and I dial, I think I'm 5002. So yeah, I got to work on that. So now I'm calling 5002. You just got to wait a second for it to go. Now you can see that the Bat phone is calling. So I'm going to mount this, I think like right here. This is going to become my everyday driver office phone. So I usually on the phone for, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours a night, something like that, depending on how many appointments there are. So I think it's going to be pretty cool to have it hanging there. Every time the ringers go off, I'm sure my wife, wherever she's at, there's like a disturbance in the force and she's rolling her eyes. But let's see. All right. Yeah. So the Unify that's behind me, that's not actually an AP. That's just the skin. And that's an award that was given to me by Leader Systems in Australia. I got Content Creator of the Year for all of my contributions to the community. And that was in 2020. The rotary solution that I'm using the Grandstream HT801 to provide dial tone services to that red phone. So the ATA transcribes the rotary signals. So there's some really cool explanations out there about how pulse dialing and tone dialing works and all that. But basically, yes, this ATA takes the pulse dialing and converts it so that the PBX can understand it. Is there a way to do HA on the Grandstream UCM 6208? It's not as straight. It's not super straightforward, but yes, you can do HA with a 6208 if you use DNS and a couple other things. That would make a great video, wouldn't it? But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this rotary phone. In fact, just one more time, we'll call it. That's so great, isn't it? Okay. Enough geeking out there, but yeah, we're obsessed with phones. 3,000 plus handsets last year. We're on target for that this year, so it's going to be great. So I want to thank you all for being here this morning. If you've got questions, comments, you can leave them. Make sure you go to williehowe.com, fill out that contact form if you need IT consulting, or if you just want to talk about something, you can fill that out. So I want to thank you all for being here today. And as always, I will see you in the next video.